I just wanted to do a little side-by-side comparison between this Speedmaster small block Mopar intake and this Edelbrock RPM air gap small block Mopar intake. I don't have a bench flow. I can't give you those numbers, but what I can do is give you with what I can see with the eye seeing, and maybe it'll help somebody make a decision. Maybe. I've run two of these Speedmaster intakes, once on an LA 318 and once on the 5.9 Magnum, and I have this intake in service currently on the a gray van that we have, which is a 360 Magnum, and this one here actually came off our drag truck. But if you look and see, this is designed very closely after the Edelbrock. You can see, if you look, the 5 and 7 cylinders are just about identical, and so are the 6 and 8 cylinders are just about identical. And if you look, I guess down the throat of the intake, you can see that the dual plane is dropped. This notch I cut out right here, this little side notch, I did cut that out myself. That didn't come that way. And the same can be said for the front runners. Just about identical. And so the question is there any real difference? And the answer to that question is, yeah, actually there is a couple of substantial differences. And I would like to cover that. Are there a height difference? Or are they virtually the same height? But if you look down here, the valley on the Speedmaster lifts the back of this up higher. So what we actually have is a deeper valley pan, if you will, which raises up, sitting on the cardboard, the height here. If you look, the Edelbrock is almost sitting flat on the cardboard, and the Speedmaster is raised up almost an inch, which raises up the ports, which raises up if you try to measure on a flat surface. But the truth of the matter is, this isn't how they will sit on the engine. Truth of the matter is, this will be raised up about the same here on the ports, on how it's going to sit on the heads, which in turn makes that level going across. So really, if one's higher than the other, it's so minimal that we're not talking anything to really say that's the deal breaker. If you know small block Mopars, then you know there's always two different sizes of thermostats. The large one and the small one here I bought brand new. It's for, I just said 318 two barrel on an 82 Dodge 318 D150. And that's the one that the Edelbrock takes. It takes the smaller one, and the Speedmaster takes the larger one. Now, I don't know that there's an advantage in that whatsoever, but just know it, if you go to do a swap, that your thermostat housing, if it's the large one or small one, may have to be looked at compared to what you're installing. I do like how the Edelbrock countersunk this. And when you put this on there, there's no drifting around. I do like that. To where this is more of the typical standard. This, you got to be careful that this can, if it's not sitting just right, you know, it can get in the way of how this seats and cause an intake coolant leak. We'll run a weight on these to see if there's any difference. None of them have the plugs in them, but they do have different bypass hose fittings, and I think this brass one here is a little bigger and might weigh a half an ounce more, but not enough to really show a difference that we're concerned about. So let's measure them in weight. Speedmaster's up first, and we have a weight of 17.2. The Edelbrock is up next, weighing 18 pounds flat. So not quite, but almost a pound difference. I'm going to measure the depth. They're both dual plane intakes, but we're going to measure the depth going straight down and getting at the bottom, because they got ripples at the bottom. Going straight down, inches would be 2.26. Well, if you want to round it up, it'd be 2.27. And if I slide over here to the Edelbrock, doing the same thing, the exact same measurement for depth. Another thing I'm going to measure is just the distance across the top. .79. And 3.74. So it's about, what, 30 thousandths wider. Not enough to really write home about. And this way, make sure it's seated. 3.62 and 3.619, so about the same. So it looks like the Speedmaster is about 30 thousandths wider. That would be 15 thousandths per side, and about the exact same in length and in depth. I'm going to measure the depth real quick on this side. 4 inches, 4.29 inches, and 4.24 inches. So it's about 50 thousandths more depth on this side for this bank. And now that they're upside down, you can see that the Edelbrock does have a little bit here of a ramp that drops into your valley, but you can see it's not much. But look at the Speedmasters. And this is why when people set them down, they say, oh, the Speedmaster is taller, but it really isn't. This just sinks further in the valley. And it's also got a couple of plugs on the bottom. Now we'll measure the ports and see if we got any deviation on the ports. First we'll do the Speedmaster. Two inches, 2.09 inch by 1.05 inch. Let's see what the Edelbrock measures. .06 inches. So that's this. The Speedmaster was 2.05. This is 2.06. So it's 10 more thousandths of an inch. 1.06. So basically you might call it the same. If I hold the gasket up, it's a little difficult, but not if I line up the bolt holes and look straight down the bolt hole barrel. And what we have here is we see that it's actually favoring against this gasket. The gasket's favoring this way, which means the ports are slit a little bit, and this is actually hanging into the port a little bit right here. And I know the floor, this would be the floor of the intake. That's not as important as the roof or the ceiling, and that looks really good. And the same over here. This actually even looks better on this side. Let's see how the Edelbrock looks. And if you look, the intake's just a smidge on the inside of the gasket, in which this is what I like. On both sides here. So I think a slight nod to the Edelbrock into the port placement. Another thing I thought worth pointing out, if I can do it with the camera, is if you look at that back wall in there, when it goes in, and when it divides between the right bank and the left bank, it's more or less a wall. There's a slight bend to it, but it's more or less a wall. You can see the Edelbrock actually has a diversion into the wall. I don't know if the light's doing it any justice or not. And again, you can see this one here is more or less just a wall in the back. I don't know what that would do for flow at a high RPM, but that is a difference. And the same for back here. You can see that the peak of the V or the diversion wall extruding toward us. You know, on the Edelbrock. And on the Speedmaster, not so much. More or less just a slightly rounded wall. I can't show you, get a good view with the flashlight. I'm really struggling to try to show you. But if you look in there, you can kind of see right there what I'm trying to show you. Versus this. So that would be cylinder number 3 and cylinder number 5. There's a greater opening that I can just see by eye when I look in there with the flashlight. Really hard to show you. It's hard to get a perception. But the Edelbrock throat is just much bigger by eye. One more obvious difference is, see these bosses up here? This one doesn't have them. This one here has an offset thermostat and a straight bypass hose, where this one here is the more traditional, like this. These bosses are to aid in certain air condition specs, setups. What's the right word? Anyways, I got this on the gray van, and it does have an air condition compressor up here, one of those small little aluminum type ones, something like that. So it's something to consider too, your air conditioning and how it'll be set up, if that's something that you have on your vehicle that you're working on. One of the more major things is the Speedmaster intake actually fits the LA bolt pattern and the Magnum. So on my LA 318, I put the plugs up here, and that's just for decoration, so you don't have all the open holes like I did for the LAs here, because this one was actually on a Magnum. But yeah, so I've used this intake on both the LA small block and the Magnum small block, and I had excellent luck with it sealing and no problems whatsoever. The Edelbrock air gap, it's either for a Magnum or you can get the one for the LA, but they don't make one that's for both. The last thing that's worth talking about that may be really major to some of you is the price. Edelbrock, made in USA is the claim, and I don't doubt it. Made right here in the good old USA. And but man, I bought this. I looked at the receipt in 2015. I gave, what was it, $289 for this, and now 10 years later, $505 from Summit and Jegs and any place else that's selling them. Not on sale. $505 for this. This one here, well, there's two ways you can buy it. You can buy it at Black Friday sale, where they offer 40% off on the Speedmaster site, or you can buy it outright during the year. Now, I didn't check the current price on this, but I know I bought 3 of these for $120 or $125 on Black Friday sale, but that was 6-7 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it was. Now, I looked last year on Black Friday, and it's coming up. It was $183 shipped to your door. So, other than that, I don't know what the normal price is. It would be plus 40%, which would be, what, $270, $280? Approximately that. So, you're looking at almost, not quite, but almost half the cost for the Speedmaster versus the Edelbrock. So, pick and choose. I can tell you I've ran both, and both have sealed and done fine. I am putting this one on our drag truck because I don't know if there's a at shift point. Maybe I can find with the diverters in here and the more opening of the ports in certain spots. Maybe there's a 7 horsepower gain or something. I have no idea. I've got to do something for the truck. If I don't change anything on the truck, then I can go down there and expect to run the same number. So something's got to change. Good, bad, and different. this is one of the things I'm changing on. I thought I would share the differences before I installed it because it's a whole lot easier to show things then. Until next time,